Welcome to the Music Journal podcast, where we talk about the hottest things happening in music right now, and also how you can apply it if you're an aspiring producer or musician yourself. I'm your host, Wes Yee. I'm a producer, artist, and educator, and I'm stoked to be chatting with you. Let's make history. All right, welcome to another episode of the Music Journal podcast. Today we have a very special guest. We have Manni Festo.
Yo.
Manni is super dope. Thank you for being here, Manni. He's actually a podcaster as well, and I've had the incredible honor of being on his show. It's called The Poets Lounge, and I think it's really just one of the most innovative shows out there right now on the internet, especially in the podcast space. He has live poetry, live music, so you can hear me perform on his show. He just finished season 1 and he's looking to relaunch season 2 pretty soon. And yeah, it's super cool to come around full circle and have you on my show as well, now that I'm kind of in the same space. So Manni, welcome to the show. Thanks for being here, bro.
What's up? Thank you, man. Yeah, much appreciated. Thanks for having me on the show. Yeah, it does feel weird to be on the other side of a podcast interview.
Have you ever been interviewed before, or are you always the interviewer?
Yeah, I mean, for the podcasting stuff, I'm pretty often just the interviewer, I guess. Like, I mean, I've done like interviews for other things that aren't podcasts, like little blogs and things like that. But yeah, for the podcasting game, I mean, it's kind of cool. It feels like there's less pressure. Like whenever I'm the host, I'm like, oh, I got to make sure I bring the content. I got to make sure that, I'm driving the conversation forward. Now I'm kind of in the passenger seat now. It's pretty cool. So.
Yeah, totally different beast, dude. And it's funny because actually before I was on your show, I listened to a couple of your episodes, and I think like 3 of your guests were like, hey, you've got a great podcast hosting voice. And I was listening to it and I was like, damn, that kid does have a really good podcast host voice. So it's kind of opposite right now, because I don't think I have a very good podcast host voice.
It's not about the voice. It's funny. I mean, I really just got into podcasting because everyone was saying you have a voice for podcasting, and I was like, but I don't know what the fuck to talk about. But as long as you have something to talk about, so and you definitely do, because your podcast seems to be making waves as well, man. So congrats on that.
Getting there, man. Got a long way to go, but I appreciate that.
Yeah.
And I really think that everybody has something to say. You know what I mean? Like anybody could start a podcast if they want to. Everybody has things that they're passionate about, but we'll get to that a little bit later. Yeah. Before we jump into the topic, do you want to just tell my audience a little bit about who you are and what you do?
Yeah, man. I consider myself just a musician, music person. I think what is it, on all my bios, all my cards, everything, I put music maker. Audio person, just to keep it kind of general, because I'm into a lot of different stuff. Basically, I mean, like it all started just me rapping. I started rapping when I was 10, so I primarily have considered myself a rapper, and nowadays I'm getting more into producing, trying to find different artists to work with and do stuff like that. I like to do mixing, audio engineering. Been doing a lot of live stuff as well, so I operate in that world as well. And of course, like you said, I got into the podcasting game recently as well, so you could say that I'm a podcaster too. So basically, if it involves audio or music, I try to involve myself. That's the gist of my bio, I guess.
Hell yeah, dude, that's awesome. I think it's crazy too how long it took for us to kind of cross paths, because we went to school like right across the street from each other.
Yeah, man.
On Facebook, we have many mutual friends who I didn't even know knew you, or you knew.
Yeah.
And we just kind of randomly met through another mutual friend who I also kind of randomly met. So it's kind of surprising, because I feel like we do a lot of really similar things and have a lot of really similar interests and passions. So
yeah, it is weird.
Pretty crazy, dude.
I guess first off, shouts out to Eric Cunningham, the boy.
Yep. Absolutely.
He is my collaborator on the podcast as well, so I got to give him a huge shout out.
Recently engaged too. Let's give a shout out to his girl.
Yes, I saw all that stuff about his party and the wedding and everything. So so shout out to that boy. So yeah, shout out to that. And then it is crazy, because I always tell people, I feel like Northeastern and Berkeley, our two colleges, are like cousins in a way. At least the Northeastern music program, because that's the program that I was in at Northeastern, and we kind of like. Yeah, like us and the Berkeley kids always kind of cross paths in weird ways, just because we're both.
I cross paths with many Northeastern music students.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Speaking of craziness and I guess coincidences, do you have a crazy story from just either being an artist or a podcaster? It doesn't have to be your story. It could be someone else's, but just any crazy story you could share.
I mean, I'm thinking the first thing that popped in my head in terms of like just operating in the music world, and especially, I mean, if we're talking about the Boston music scene as well. The first thing that popped in my head, it kind of is like a bad story, but at this point, I've kind of just, you kind of got to keep trudging forward. It was the first time I heard boos while I was on stage. I can go through it real quick. This was at the infamous Middle East restaurant, and music venue, of course.
You were playing upstairs or downstairs?
I was playing downstairs, and this is probably the biggest show of my life. I was playing.
Just really quick to put it in perspective, the Middle East downstairs is one of the biggest venues in Boston. I've had the pleasure of playing it as well. Yeah, it's divided into two. There's like upstairs, downstairs, and downstairs is where all the like big touring acts go to perform. Yeah. So just for the listeners who aren't from the area, so they get a little context, know a little bit about the venue. So you were playing downstairs, which is the big one.
Exactly, the big one, and also I feel like they definitely put more rap acts down there. Like I feel like I hear about more rap shows down there, but in general it is the bigger space, and just so I don't know, it was huge. And I think this was my first time playing in the downstairs part. I'd played the upstairs part like a month before or something like that. So, and I was opening up for Smith and Wesson. I was one of like 8 openers, because you know how the Middle East does. They just throw a bunch of local acts on before a big act. So that was huge. It's like this is like a classic group from the 90s, like, who was there. And so it was cool to say I was opening for them. So I was nervous about that. And basically what happened was, man, I went up to the stage, and basically I had trusted the Middle East with the DJing capability, the DJing capabilities, because basically the month before at the show I had at the upstairs the upstairs part of the venue, they had me with this guy who was an amazing DJ. I didn't catch his name, but like he was like just like DJing for like all the openers, and he just like he knew how to do it. He was cutting in and doing all the DJ scratching, everything that you would want out of a DJ. He was hitting it. So I was like, all right, the Middle East got me. All I got to do is bring in my beats on like a flash drive, and I'll be good. Mm-hmm. So then I get to this one, and it's not that same DJ. It's this other DJ, and this guy sucked ass. Like I can't put it any other way.
Fire this motherfucker.
Right? So like he gets I gave him my flash drive, and also just the whole thing could have been a little better organized, because I gave my flash drive like right before I was about to go on. And so he was having problems like getting the files going, you know what I'm saying? Like he's having like pulling them up. He like I remember looking back at him from the stage, and he was just like dead face looking at his computer, like not knowing what the hell. God. I was like, come on, bro. Because then they basically just threw me out to the wolves there. Like first off, this is a Smith and Wesson show, so there's a bunch of old cats in there, like 90s rap fans, and it's an arguable debate if that's the real rap, but these are definitely the people who can at least consider themselves the real rap fans. You know what I'm saying? So so it's a restless crowd, to say the least. And so regardless of who was on, I think everyone was kind of like going antsy about. They were saying like, we wanted to see Smith and Wesson. Where's Smith and Wesson? Like they didn't care who the opener was or what they were doing. It was just like, we want to see the main act. Who are these openers? And so that kind of made it tough to be an opener from the start, just with that. Yeah. And then I had this whack ass DJ, and so basically the MC of the night, he kind of just threw me to the wolves of all these hungry fans. After he said like, come to the stage, Manni Festo, and then the DJ was like, I'm not ready yet, and the MC was just like, well, hey, just go out there and kick a freestyle for a little bit. And I was like, all right. Oh my God. Right? I was like, oh well, all right. Like, I mean, it's hip hop, you kind of got to be ready to drop bars whenever. So I went out, I started rapping a little bit, started just pulling like, rapping some stuff that I had that I wasn't like doing, like some verses I wasn't gonna do a song for, like in my main act that I wasn't planning on doing. Just a cappella, doing other little freestyles. I kept going, like as long as I could. I kept looking back at the DJ, who was still just staring at his computer dead faced. And I was like, what the hell is going on? Like, so that's when people started to grow antsy. That's when I started hearing those boos. And that's, it was like that. Yeah, it was like you said, the craziest story. It was definitely, I mean, stuff like that, like it makes you stronger as an artist, definitely. Because then, the MC came back on. He's like, oh, well, we'll help you out. Like he came back on with the drummer. Me and him kind of went back and forth freestyle, and still looking back at the DJ, he's still not doing his thing.
He's like checking his email.
I don't know what the hell he's doing. I'm like, yo, come on. And so like we go back and forth freestyle for a little bit. The crowd is still just restless just because, again, they're like, hurry the fuck up. We want to see Smith and Wesson play. But I'm like, man, I've rehearsed like crazy for the show. Y'all are gonna watch me play. So as soon as the DJ got his shit together, like I remember he just like out of nowhere just put on my first beat, and I was like, okay, fuck it, here we go. Listen, like no more delaying, come on. And so I just ran through the whole set. Like I barely even took breaks between songs. I was just going. And yeah, I mean, by the end of it, people were cheering and stuff like that. There were still some restless people who were like there were some drunk motherfuckers trying to like throw ice on the stage, and I was like, yo, get the fuck out of here, man. Like, what are you doing? But shit, like I was ready. I saw like some ice fly across the stage, and I was like, yo, who the fuck do that? Like I said that into the mic, but I think someone talked me down, like, yo, chill, because I was ready to go out in the crowd, like, who the fuck did that? But yeah, like, so by the end of it, people were still feeling it. And yeah, there was still some wrestling because there was like, where's Smith and Wesson? But people were enjoying it by the end. And then actually this other guy came out, and it felt good to hear because he was kind of just like, yo, man, like y'all booed this guy, and he kept going. Like, this guy got the heart of a champion, and like, you know, he kind of like, he dapped me up, and I said like, thank you, peace. You know what I'm saying? Like, so that it was a good feeling in the end. But the whole time I was like, yo, man, like this DJ was about to end my life, and I was about to end his. So that's the first thing that popped in my head when you asked me that.
Dude, that's fucked, but I love the way you handled it. I mean, you said something that I thought really resonated with me, which was that as an artist, these stressful moments and these crazy experiences are what strengthen you and what make you better and what make you just more powerful as an artist. And dude, I feel like I've had that exact thing happen in like a bad dream and woken up at fucking like 4 a.m. with that exact scenario, like Middle East downstairs, fucking people booing and shit, like technical difficulties and everything.
Man.
What would you advise to artists listening to potentially not have that happen to them? Because it's somewhat unavoidable, but are there little things you could have tweaked or maybe done to maybe had the situation go a little better?
Right. Well, let's see. I guess first off, make if you can, bring a DJ that you know and that you trust. don't rely on some random ass DJ. I guess that's one thing. You know, it's good to just know people, just have your own, just be being on top of your own thing. Like if the more in control you are, the better off it'll be. So you don't have to, you know, wait around on people who don't know what they're doing. That's a thing. And then, but like in general, if there's any reason why you should like start getting booed or just dealing with a restless crowd in general, just keep going. Like, you know, like the mic is your power stick. So I was at a gig the other day and somebody called the microphone that. I was like, I like that. I'm gonna start calling it that. a power stick. So, you know, you're in control, like just, you know, be in control. That's all it really is. And
sounds like fucking like Lord of the Rings or some shit.
Yeah, right.
Power stick.
I must have the power stick in my hand. But yeah, like that dude,
wizard or some shit,
right? And like that dude said, you know, like just keep on going. Like who fucking cares if they're booing you? And like, yeah, like I think Dave Chappelle even said, like, you know, any performer, it's good to get booed every now and again, because it, you know, it humbles you. Sometimes you think that you're invincible, but then you do that and you kind of got to bring it stronger. Because that's the other thing is like, I maybe was a little too, I maybe wasn't like, you know, ready enough. Like I should have been more prepared. Like, you know, make sure your freestyle game is very strong in case you're ever in a situation like that. You know, preparation is kind of is always a big help. But yeah, so was it preparation and perseverance? Those are kind of the two things that go together. I think that's a.
I heard a dope quote actually just this morning. It's luck is when preparation meets opportunity.
Ooh, that's it.
Kind of good, right?
I like that.
What it's basically saying is luck doesn't really exist.
Right.
It's the opportunity will come and it'll present itself, but it'll work out when you're prepared.
Exactly. Yeah. If you're not prepared, luck doesn't mean shit.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with that 100%. And just the whole topic of knowing your own DJ and kind of being prepared and kind of knowing people kind of brings me into the topic that I wanted to talk to you today about, which is just kind of the importance of networking and connecting with different people in your space. Because, you know, you're a podcaster, so you get the amazing opportunity to talk to a lot of really cool high-end guests and kind of pick their brains and learn about them, and then you can kind of apply that to yourself. And that's one of the things that I really like about the podcasting thing too, is because I get to connect with my incredible audience in a way that I can't solely with music, because it's just a totally different platform and a way of communicating. But then also I get to communicate with people like you and different guests that I get to have on the show, and we get to pick each other's brains and just learn a lot. So what has been, I guess, the coolest thing for you about being a podcast host and connecting with all these artists?
Yeah, I mean, like it's like doing my podcast. It's definitely introduced me to a lot of cool people. Because again, I didn't even just do music. I didn't even just do people involved in music. Sometimes I do people who only do poetry. Sometimes I do people. I interview people who do comedy. You know, so I get to meet a lot of cool people because now I kind of have a way to entice them and say like, hey, you know, I have a nice platform that, you know, I'd love to have you on, and that kind of entices them, brings them in. And so from a networking standpoint, a lot of times I feel like I don't want to give my secrets away, but a lot of times I feel like my other reason for doing this podcast is so that I can build more of a network, you know, because people come in to get interviewed, they talk to me about music and everything like that. And then I say, hey, you know, by the way, I produce music if you ever want to work together, you know? So it works out so that I can maybe like network with them more, and just the podcast is kind of like the opener into, you know, us just collaborating and getting to know each other. Cause yeah, I feel like, you know, with the way I run my podcast is very conversational. I kind of just sit down and chat with you about what you like about your music, what just why you do what you do. And so that's like that makes it so that you kind of bond with an artist before you even start working with them. And then the next thing you know, you're like, hey, you know, like I have this beat, you want to hop on that? And then we just start, you know, chopping it up. So I definitely feel like doing this kind of podcast and just like being involved with this universe puts you right in the middle of things, and yeah, it just opens up things for collaboration. That's the main thing that I like about it.
Yeah, dude, I think that's definitely part of your genius is the fact that you wear a lot of hats. Like in the beginning when you were just telling everybody about who you are and what you do, you mentioned all these things, and I feel like part of the reason why you can do all these things is because you're so consistently surrounded with people who are just experts at what they do. So like you obviously know way more than I do about poetry or comedy because I'm not really surrounding myself with those types of people so frequently, and you are, which I think is dope.
Oh, thank you, man. I don't know, I just kind of I guess the poetry thing, I've always been into just writing myself. Like, it's not even like that's like, yeah, I was talking about like, you know, rapping since I was a little kid. I guess even before that, I was just into just writing anything. And and then I heard rap songs and I combined the two things. So I guess that's the main reason why I got into like a poetry based podcast, but specifically just because that's the thing.
Well, hip hop and poetry definitely go hand in hand. They're like married almost.
Exactly.
What made you want to start the podcast? Because with anything, I feel like for any artist who wants to start a podcast or put out their first EP or make their first single, the hardest part is definitely starting. In my opinion, it was definitely the hardest thing for me as well. What I guess got you to make that push in yourself and take that step to actually start it and actually follow through with it?
Actually, it's funny. A lot of things came together at the same time that made me say, maybe a podcast is a good idea. I guess a few things that inspired it. Like, let's see, in the months before, really like the whole year before I really launched the podcast, like, you know, and released my first episode, I thought about, you know, I haven't thought about like I was trying to do like some kind of a thing, some kind of a media thing, you know, especially seeing the country, the world having such like a crazy time right now and like so much division and everything like that. I actually at first thought about making some kind of YouTube television show where I somehow, like through music and art and media, brought people together to talk to each other. This was like my first idea. And then eventually it melded into like, what if I just made a podcast about that kind of a thing where I had people kind of just talk to each other, sit down and talk to each other. And then that idea blended, like became this, because I was like, well, you know, I myself, like I think I need a more niche topic for my podcast or my show or whatever I'm going to do. And I said the thing that I'm interested in is poetry and music and things like that. So what if I use that to kind of talk about, you know, just the issues that people I think need to talk about. So it all kind of came from that, because I always kind of like, whenever I had people on the show, I talk about their work, their art, what they write, and it helps like from that we go into talking about current events and what inspired them to write what they write, me to write what I write. So it kind of works that way, where I feel like having like the same kind of an effect as my original thought, my original idea to make like some TV show about bringing people together through what affects them, the things that similarly affect everyone. I feel like I'm still doing that just through a poetry lens. So that was kind of like the main thing that made me start thinking about doing a podcast, at least in that topic. Just because like it kind of just went through phases of like what kind of a media show I was gonna have. And then other little things I just like recording stuff. I have this audio setup, and when I was at Northeastern, I would always be in the studio. And I think it was a thing after I graduated, I was like, damn, I can't go in the studio anymore. Like I want to record something. And so I thought, I could record a podcast. That'd be like a fun little audio venture. And of course, everyone was telling me I had a good radio voice. So I said, maybe I could do a podcast. So all of those things kind of came together at once, and turned into where we are now. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's fucking dope, dude. I think what's really cool about that is that it started out with you wanting to do one thing that wasn't totally unrelated from a podcast. Like you wanted to do a YouTube TV show.
Yeah.
But it ended up evolving. And that's kind of the whole thing about it, is that regardless of what the platform is, be it poetry or music or a podcast or a YouTube TV show, it all started with you wanting to say something. Like you wanted to talk about these things that you thought were important and are important.
Yeah.
And I feel like so many people have these things that they just want to fucking talk about and they want to fucking say.
Exactly.
But they don't know how to do it, and they don't realize that it can start as one thing and evolve into something different, and there's nothing wrong with that. And it kind of comes back full circle too, because you did that show and you got booed at it, and it started out as a negative thing, but you took it and you learned from it. And the only real way that you can fail is if you don't even try. You know what I mean? Like for me, I started as like a fucking classical pianist. My mom signed me up for classical piano lessons when I was 6, and then that evolved into me taking up jazz trumpet, which wouldn't have happened had I not been this classical piano player. And I hated classical piano, which eventually led to me being a music producer and then an artist and now a podcaster. Right. So it's pretty wild, man, how everybody has their own story, and it always starts with something and then ends up with another thing. And nobody really knows the whole tale, you know what I mean? Yeah. So just for the listeners listening, I think it's really important for you to just kind of dive into something, even if you don't know that it's right and you don't feel like it might be the right thing. Go for it anyways. You know what I mean? Would you agree with that?
Oh, very much, man. Yeah, like the original podcast idea that I had, where I just would invite people in to kind of like discuss some topic that I was thinking about. I actually recorded like 2 episodes of that will just never get released because I just like, when I was sitting in it, I was like, this doesn't feel right. And also just the logistics of it. I was like, I'm gonna have to like get like multiple guests for each episode and deal around their schedules. That shit is annoying. I just want to put something out, so like you kind of go through trial
like
and
a
error.
Bonus or something,
right? Maybe I'll release them as a bonus episode one day. That could be kind of, we had good discussions. I remember that. So like things like that just made me be like, let me go in a different direction. But it's just cool. Like you were saying, like everyone, like so many people have so much to say, and especially, man, like, cause I feel like I definitely started to think about this right after the election when, and even in general, even before that though, you go to like your Facebook timeline and everyone's just rambling off all this angry bullshit. You know what I'm saying? That's like, I think that's what inspired it the most. I was like, what if I tried to, like do something? I looked around, I was like, someone got to do something, and I was like, let me try to do whatever I can, because a lot of times I felt like, like in terms of politics, political stuff, I didn't study any of that stuff. Like, would anyone take me seriously? That's kind of how I thought. Then I was like, well, I studied media, and I think media is a very important realm of society. It very much helps people communicate, talk to each other, and learn from each other. So I said, what if I went in that direction, and then and did it in a way that kind of got past all the bullshit that you see on your Facebook timeline. So I think that's what inspired it the most. Like, you were saying everyone has something to say. This is my way of kind of getting out the things that I have to say in a way that's more productive than just a Facebook status.
Definitely. And I don't even think it really matters that you weren't really educated in that space either, because you still can have an opinion based off of just everything that you know and everything that you've been through, which is going to be different than somebody who might be more educated but hasn't had the same experience as you.
True.
Especially with something like politics, which literally affects everybody. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's also what I realized. I was like, we're all citizens at the end of the day. So it's not like, everyone like you said, everyone has like their own experience and opinions on that. So it's like, the citizen is the most important position in government, right? That's what they say.
I agree with that 100%. The customer is always right. I don't want to get too into like specific politics, but I mean, you're a fucking person from the hood who's living check to check. Their opinion matters just as much, in my opinion, to the fucking like Wall Street guy who is studied up on all the shit, because at the end of the day, it's another life that's living under the same political umbrella.
Facts. Yeah, man.
To kind of switch lanes here a little bit though, what's something about you that people wouldn't guess just by looking at you?
Yeah, I guess if you saw like he's into hip hop, he's into this. I guess still is like a huge Harry Potter fan.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, dude. That and like,
what are you, a Gryffindor or something? What's your house?
Of course, Gryffindor, dog. That's the heroes. They're all the heroes at the end of the day.
You've taken like the BuzzFeed quiz and everything?
Oh, I guess. I don't know. That's just what I give myself. I don't trust BuzzFeed.
Oh, okay.
No, yeah, that kind of shit. I don't know. I guess you could say like I'm just like, there's a few things that would be labeled as like nerdy shit that I'm mad into. Like that. What else? I guess I've been working like the gig I've been working right now is I'm doing sound for the Shakespeare play A Midsummer Night's Dream, and I guess you could say I've been pretty into theater, especially when I was a kid, and then I've been getting back into it just through the work I've been finding. That's something I don't think people would necessarily tell about me, that I'm just into theater and all that. Like this play specifically, A Midsummer Night's Dream, I was actually in a college production of it as a kid.
Shit.
Yeah, they have a character in it that usually they just talk about called the Changeling Boy, and in this adaptation that happened at my hometown's college, they wanted to put the Changeling Boy actually into it, so they got me because my mom works at the college.
Oh, sick.
And so yeah, like if you know me well, and I'm just might show you some old pictures of me and like some crazy makeup and like that crazy costume of me in that play. Like, so some shit like that. Like, I think that's something that people wouldn't necessarily expect, is especially if you were to see those pictures, you'd be like, that's the same dude? I'm like, yeah, that's the same dude.
We're going to send me those pictures after the show.
Maybe. We got them on Polaroid or something like that.
Oh, shit. Damn. Throwback. You heard it here first. Manny, despite his cool voice, cool podcast host voice, and his cool hip hop look, he's actually a secret nerd.
Exactly. Secret nerd, man. I'm wearing the glasses right now.
You're like a fucking superhero. You're a secret nerd, man.
I like that.
Hey, man, we're almost out of time, unfortunately, but I got one question that I just ask on every episode. I definitely want to ask you. I like the answers I get a lot. If you had unlimited money, no strings attached, what would you do and why?
Oh my god. I just didn't have to worry about money ever. I'd probably, amongst my I believe in leisure time because it's very therapeutic. So I do a nice balance of like, I'm going to the beach, I'm gonna go travel the world. I'd totally go travel the world. And then I would just, because like a lot of people say like, oh, like within music, they say, oh, doing this kind of stuff, like, doing sound for a play brings me in money. I wouldn't do any of that shit. I would sit around in like in my pajamas, make the music that I wanted to make. You still work with artists, like just because I love to do it, make the kind of music that I want to make, not anything that I'm not even thinking about, making money. And then, just go. So I'd still do the music because I love to do it. But then, travel the world, fucking go to the beach all the time because I love the beach, and just live my damn life. I guess so. That's it.
That's awesome, dude. Hey, man, if you want to tell the listeners where they can find you,
feel man. Free. You can go, first off, the Poets Lounge. Please go check that out. Season 1 is out, like you said. It's poetsloungepodcast.com, or www.poetsloungepodcast.com. We're on Instagram too, at Poets Lounge Pod. Same thing on Twitter. We got Facebook page, all that stuff. So follow us up and get ready for season 2, which is coming as soon as I get it all together. Yeah. And then for music stuff, I mean, I got my own personal Instagram too, at Manni.Festo, because there's a guy in Australia who named Manni Festo. He took my shit. I followed him, and he still hasn't relinquished it, but still.
We're gonna take him out.
Right? What's good? Where you at?
One podcast at a time.
Exactly. Yeah, so I'm on Instagram with that. I'm on Twitter. I use it sometimes. All that stuff. And check that out. And then if you want to hear my music, check out my SoundCloud. I got, SoundCloud.com/Manni-Festo. I'm on Bandcamp. Manni-Festo.bandcamp.com. All that stuff. Use the Google machine. You'll find the music. And holla at your boy to work with me on some music, because I'd love to do that.
All right. Well, you heard it here first. You can use the Google machine. I'll also have all the links in the show notes.
Yeah.
And definitely connect with Manni. He's the man.
Hey, and if you need some mixing and mastering, holler at your boy as well. All that.
This is your guy. Manni, thank you so much for being on The Music Journal, bro.
Hey, thank you, Wes. Much appreciated.
Thank you for tuning in to this episode of The Music Journal. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you got a lot out of it. If you want to know more about me and what I do, I just put out a personal EP on Spotify. You can go to bit.ly/Wes Yee Spotify. And if you want to know more about music production, I teach an online course about it too. Just shoot an email to wes@homestudiohits.com and I'll send you an application. Just for filling out the application, I'll send you a free sample pack of sounds I use to make the instrumental you're listening to, and more. All these links will be available in the show notes, so you can check them out there. And while you're there, if you feel inclined to rate this show 5 stars, that would really help me out. Other than that, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss an episode. Thanks again. Peace.